All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're not just looking at an article, we're going to crack open the actual court documents from a huge ongoing legal fight. This is the story of one family versus the city of Phoenix, and it involves some truly mind-blowing accusations. So, welcome to the Phoenix Files.
This isn't some abstract legal debate. It all starts right here, with this one sentence from a federal court filing. At the very heart of this incredibly complicated case are two people, Keith and Paul Hartl, and they're about to lose the home they've lived in for more than 30 years.
So you have to wonder, how in the world did it get to this point? To really get a grip on the massive lawsuit that unfolds, we've got to go back to the very beginning, to the one single document that put this family's home on the chopping block.
And it all boils down to this thing called a municipal abatement lien. Now, in plain English, if you break a city code, let's say your yard is a total mess, the city can come in, clean it up, and then stick a lien, which is basically a bill, on your property for the cost. If you don't pay up, they can actually foreclose on your home. It's a pretty standard tool for cities everywhere. But in this case, the legitimacy of that tool is everything.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because this chart breaks down the entire foundation of the family's case. On one side, you've got a normal, legit lien. But the Hartls are arguing that the lien on their house was, in their words, a phantom lien right from the get-go. They claim in their legal filings it was based on a totally void city rule, that they were never properly notified, and because of that, it wasn't a real debt at all, it was just a legally powerless cloud on title.
So the key takeaway here is this. This isn't just about fighting a bill. The plaintiffs are basically saying the bill itself was a ghost, a legal fiction. And that one argument? Well, that's the spark that ignites the absolute wildfire of a lawsuit that follows.
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to argue about a city code violation. It is a completely different thing to accuse city officials and private companies of teaming up in a criminal racketeering scheme. So how on earth did they connect those dots?
Well, the answer, according to the plaintiffs, is in the evidence they can't see. This table here is based on what the defendants call a privilege log. It's a list of documents they're refusing to hand over in the case. They're claiming attorney-client privilege. But just look at what's on this list. An internal memorandum that apparently links the city to private companies, and a foreclosure notice specifically marked for internal use only.
For the Hartls, these aren't just some boring, confidential memos. Oh no, they're calling them the smoking guns. They believe these hidden documents are the proof they need to show that this foreclosure wasn't a normal city procedure at all, but a coordinated plot between public officials and private businesses to take their home.
And this is where the case just completely explodes in scope. Because they believe there's a conspiracy. The plaintiffs don't just sue to stop the foreclosure, they go big. They file a RICO claim. That's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, a law that was literally designed to take down the mob.
Now, to fight back, the plaintiffs created their own legal playbook, which they actually call the Hartl Doctrine. It's a pretty straightforward three-part test. Number one, government action has to be based on a real, valid law. Number two, people have to get proper notice and a fair chance to defend themselves. And three, officials have to act in good faith. No deception, no manipulating the system.
And this is a brilliant look into their whole strategy. See, this doctrine isn't just a shield they built to protect their own house. They designed it to be a sword, a legal weapon they believe they can use to prove the whole system is corrupt and take the entire alleged enterprise apart piece by piece.
So, with this custom-built legal framework in hand, the plaintiffs are ready to make their move. And the list of demands they come up with, it is absolutely audacious. They're not just asking for their house back. They want much, much more than that.
For starters, let's just talk about the money. The number they put on the table is just staggering. $200 million. That's the figure from a settlement demand they sent to the city of Phoenix. So yeah, we are way past just trying to save a house here. The financial stakes are astronomical.
But honestly, as you can see here, the money might be the least shocking part. In their court filings, they are asking a federal court to seize all the assets of this alleged enterprise, appoint a neutral outsider to take over and manage the city departments involved, order the city to return all houses they claim were illegally foreclosed on, and then award triple damages under that RICO law.
The plaintiffs actually have their own name for this endgame. They call it corporate martial law. And it's a radical idea, right? That a federal judge should have the power to step in, seize assets, and basically take control of parts of a city government to root out what they see as corruption.
So let's just be crystal clear. The ultimate goal here, laid out in their own legal strategy, isn't just about winning a lawsuit and getting a check. It's about triggering a court-ordered intervention into the very operations of a major American city.
Okay, now we have to hit pause for a second because this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. The defendants haven't been found liable for any of this. In fact, a federal judge initially threw the entire case out. The ruling was basically that federal courts can't just jump in and second-guess decisions already made in state court. The judge essentially said, sorry, this isn't the right place for this fight.
But even with that big legal setback, the issues that the Hartl's lawsuit bring up seem to be part of a much bigger conversation. When you zoom out from just this one family's fight, you start to see signs that this might not be an isolated incident at all.
And listen to this. This quote doesn't come from a lawyer or a politician. It comes from a public comment submitted to the city of Phoenix by a regular resident. They're talking about a disturbing pattern all across the city of bad actors using this lien process to take away homes and family wealth. It really suggests that the Hartl's claims, as wild as they sound, are tapping into a real, raw nerve in the community.
And that leaves us with this final, really tough question. Look, every city has to enforce its codes. That's how you maintain safe, clean neighborhoods. But where does that legitimate power end? And where does a system that can be twisted and used to hurt the very residents it's supposed to protect begin? This case, no matter how it turns out, really forces all of us to think about that very, very fine line.